African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation as of September 18, 2025. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. Units of the North Troop Group inflicted defeats on formations of 3 mechanized, motorized infantry brigades and an assault regiment of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements of Andriivka, Konstantinovka, Unikovka, and Maropli in the Sumy region. In the Kharkiv direction, defeats were inflicted on units of a mechanized brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements of Ambarno and Volchansk in the Kharkiv region. The armed forces of Ukraine lost over 205 servicemen, 2 tanks, an armored combat vehicle, 5 vehicles, and a field artillery gun. A radio-electronic warfare station and 4 supply depots were destroyed. Units of the West Troop Group improved their tactical position. Defeats were inflicted on personnel and equipment of mechanized, assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements of Kupiansk, Petropavlovka, Borovskaya and Andriivka in the Kharkiv region, Kirovsk and Yampol in the Donetsk People's Republic. Enemy losses amounted to more than 230 servicemen, 3 Western-made armored combat vehicles, 19 vehicles, and an artillery gun. 10 radio-electronic warfare stations and 5 ammunition depots were destroyed. Units of the South Troop Group occupied more advantageous lines and positions. Defeats were inflicted on formations of 2 mechanized, mountain assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade in the areas of the settlements of Severovsk, Peryezno, Fedorovka, Belokosmanovka, Verolyubovka, Mayskoye, Pleshchivka, and Zvanovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost up to 195 servicemen, 3 armored combat vehicles, 15 vehicles, and 3 field artillery guns. 3 radio-electronic warfare stations, 5 ammunition and supply depots were destroyed. Units of the Center Troop Group improved their frontline position. Defeats were inflicted on personnel and equipment of 3 mechanized, airborne assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, a Marine brigade, a territorial defense brigade, and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements of Kutuzovka, Volno, Rodinsko, Dmitrov, Krasnoarmeysk, Novy Donbass, Krasny Lyman, and Lenino in the Donetsk People's Republic. Losses of Ukrainian armed formations amounted to over 435 servicemen, 6 armored combat vehicles, 7 vehicles, and 3 artillery guns. Units of the East Troop Group continued to advance deep into the enemy's defense. They inflicted damage on the formations of mechanized, assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and 2 territorial defense brigades in the areas of the settlements Berezovo, Novonikolivka, Vishnevo in the Dnipropetrovsk region and Novoivanovka in the Zaporizhzhia region. The armed forces of Ukraine lost up to 280 servicemen, a tank, 3 armored combat vehicles, 10 cars, and an artillery piece. A radio-electronic warfare station and an ammunition depot were destroyed. Units of the Dnipropetrovsk Troop Group inflicted damage on personnel and equipment of mechanized, mountain assault brigades and a coastal defense brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements Novoandriivka, Kamenskoye in the Zaporizhzhia region and Antonovka in the Kherson region. Losses of the armed forces of Ukraine amounted to up to 50 servicemen, 8 vehicles, and 2 field artillery guns. 5 radio-electronic warfare stations and 3 ammunition depots were destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, strike unmanned aerial vehicles, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian Armed Forces troop groups inflicted damage on energy facilities used in the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine, storage sites and workshops for the production of long-range unmanned aerial vehicles, as well as temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 142 districts. Air defense means shot down 106 airplane-type unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, the following have been destroyed: 667 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 84,971 unmanned aerial vehicles, 628 anti-aircraft missile systems, 25,157 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,592 multiple launch rocket system combat vehicles, 29,668 field artillery guns and mortars, 42,118 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.